What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Gonzaraz. All right, guys. Today we're going to be testing the SIG P320 against the grenade. I'm joking. All right, no. So today we're gonna be doing some measurements, and we're gonna be doing a review on the famous screw test with the slide movement. Okay. First, let me start with this. For me, in my eyes, in my opinion, this doesn't prove anything. If this proves something, it's gonna be proving that something in the holster, or is a user error that is pulling that trigger back, right? Something is touching that trigger, and the person doesn't have any trigger discipline. That makes sense? So pretty much you have to put a screw, pull that trigger back till it's about to break and everything is actually starting to disconnect, and move the slide to finish or assist those components to finally at the tip disconnect and make the firing pin goes off. Okay. I don't know what we're trying to prove here, right? I know a bunch of you guys are doing a good job trying to find out, what's going on with the pistol. I'm curious too. I want to know, there's a lot of stuff that makes sense. And I have my own opinion of what it makes sense too. Okay. In my opinion, I'm going to give you my humble opinion at the end. I'm not saying that the pistol is not effective. I'm not saying the pistol is effective. All right. I'm just, showing you guys, not only putting the screw there. I'm just going to measure how many pounds this trigger have. How many pounds is the pull of this trigger without breaking the wall. And what is actually the measurements from here to the trigger and from here to the trigger when the trigger is pulled about to break. Okay, how many millimeters you have to travel pulling that trigger to assist the slide, moving the slide to make that firing pin go off. Okay, that makes sense? And we're gonna take those numbers. I'm gonna show you those numbers. We're gonna zero this thing out every time we take measurements, and we're gonna write it in a piece of paper, okay? So bear with me, be patient, because I already did it. It's about 33.80 where it start breaking. That's where we're gonna stop, and then we're gonna move the slide and see what happened, okay? So let me get a piece of paper real quick. Damn, I wasn't ready, all right? I was ready, but I'm not. Piece of paper. And then we're gonna start writing the numbers on this piece of paper. All right, so first, I haven't touched the gun. The gun is clear, nothing in the chamber. There's nothing wrong with this gun. There's no other parts that I have changed to the gun, except for the lower, the module, the grip module. This one is the metal one and not the polymer one. This is the X Carry P320 from 6 Hour. The only added thing that's here is an optic. I'm not gonna take the optic off for this test. That's ridiculous. Everything else, should be matching everything from factory. Okay, trigger springs are factory. Everything else, internals are trigger factory. Just like it's coming out of the box, okay? So first we're gonna start with, obviously, we're gonna get the measurements on the trigger, all right? An average, right? So let me center this. I put some piece of tape here so I know that you guys are gonna be looking at everything, okay? So let me move this a little bit to the right. Let me place this out of the way. Boom. And let's start pulling that trigger. First one is a 3.13. We're gonna do 3 pulls, and then we're gonna click average, okay? So, ready? And pull. 3.5. Ready? And pull. And 3 pounds. So average is a 3.6 pound. It's a very light trigger for a gun, for law enforcement gun. Okay, and I'm going to that later on. Let's go straight to the meat and potatoes, and then we end up this with the comments. Okay, so average is 3.6, three pulls, and then the tool give me the average. Okay, so trigger pull is 3.6 pounds. Okay, now we're not going to pull the trigger. We're just gonna go to the wall and see what is the pressure when you start hitting that wall. Okay, and average. Oh, it went off. That one doesn't count. Clear. Ready. It's about right there. All right. Ready. About right there. Ready. About right there. Average is about the same. Trigger pull without break is 3.5 pounds. Okay, so now we're going to measure. We're gonna dip. Now that we're finished with this tool, we're gonna put it to the side. We're done with it. Okay. All right, we're done with that. Make sure the gun is cocked. It fires, yes. All right, now we're going with this tool. We're gonna turn it on. We're gonna zero. It's in millimeters, all right? And then we're gonna measure. It's easier this way. We're going to measure from after the curve where it's straight to after the curve where it's straight here in from the trigger guard, the inside, and the after the tip of the trigger. Okay, ready? Let's go. There you go. Let's try again. That's not what I got the first time. All right. All right. So we got 27.82 millimeters. So okay, so measurements 27.81, 27.81. That's what I got first. It changed now. Trigger guard to trigger shoot. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna play this famous screw. I already did some marks in there. That's when, you know, start breaking the wall. But now we're going to do it till it breaks. Okay, we're going to break the trigger. Once it breaks and go bang without assisting the slide, we're gonna take the measurements. Okay, So let's do that. Gonna charge, and then place the screw in there, and start putting that little guy in there. I might have to do a couple of times, you know, but I'm not gonna get it out of camera, okay? Trying to go all the way to the red mark, all right? So I don't have to be like going back and forward. Okay, right there. Look at the marks, man. Oh, it went off right there. All right. So now we're gonna get the measurements. What is the measurements here? Let's put in 0 first. 0. And get those measurements. Right there. 34.29. 34.29 trigger brakes. Okay, and go bang. All right. So now we are going to attempt to get that screw to the breaking point where I'm going to move the slide, and it's gonna go off, and it's gonna be about 33.80, I would say. Okay, give or take. All right. Okay, start feeling tension already. Let me see what we got here. 0. 33.46. Let's try. I'm gonna hit it that hard, okay? But I think that's hard enough with the trigger assist. I wanna get it to the point where it's actually disconnecting. Okay, let's see what we got. Ah, it went off. Man, we gotta do it again. We're gonna do it again. All right. Let's try again. I'm trying to get to 380-ish, 33.8-ish, or start breaking. Okay. Let's see. 33.33, 32. It's not gonna do it. No. I already tried before. It's not gonna happen. Okay, I think this is getting close. Getting close. 0. 33.57. Oh, it went off. Okay, so 33.57. It actually went off sooner. Shorter this time. Trigger, brakes, with slide assist. Okay, so now we're gonna get the real measurements of what is going on here. Okay, so if we take, hold on, bear with me. So first we're gonna start with these two guys right here. I think I got the numbers right, but let's make sure. Let's do it up by hand, okay? And use our brains. All right, 34.29. That was the first break, clean break, using pretty much a finger. All right, 27.81. That is the measurement without pulling the trigger. So it's minus. You got here 8. You can't do it. So 3, 12. You got 4 is equal to 12. You can't do it neither because you got a 7 here. So you get take that. It's 13. So 7 plus 6. So it's 6, 13, and then you have 0. So you have 6.48. We're right on the first one. And under the second one, we have 33.57 minus 27, same number, 0.81. So you have 6, can't do it, can't do it. So you can take 1 from this one, it's 15. So you got 7, and then here you can't do it either. So you got 12. You got 5 and 0. So you got 5.76. Yeah, you're right. So those numbers are right, right? So the measurements from the trigger pull, the first trigger pull, from the wall, from the beginning, all the way to firing the gun is 6.48 millimeters. And then the one assistant with the slide, moving the slide, and about to break, pulling that trigger, you hear that? Pulling that trigger is 5.76. So now we're going to subtract 6.48 minus 5.76. All right, so here we got a 2, can't do it. So we got a 4, and then you had a 7 and 0. 0.72. All right, let's do it again. 6.48, 5.76, and then you got a 2, you got a 14. This one's a 5, 7, 0. Okay, so you got 0.72 millimeters. Average. So let me explain this, okay? So we already did this test right here. We got 5.76 with assisting with the slide, moving the slide, and the trigger about to break, right? And then we broke we fired the gun, moving the slide. On the first test that we did, we fired the slide, screwing the screw all the way in, so till that trigger went back and break and do a clean break and fire. So if you subtract the 5.76, where it's about to break, from the clean break of 6.48, you got a 0.72 distance where all the components start breaking, okay? That's when, I'm disconnecting, my bad, using the breaking word. I'm Puerto Rican, so bear with me, okay? So 72 inches, millimeters is the number where all the components start disconnecting, okay? So that's less than 1 millimeter. That's what we got here today, right? And let me tell you something, guys. In order to move this line and make it go off, you had to travel 5.76 millimeters, right? 5.76 millimeters, almost about to break, right? And then you assist him, right? Let me see if I can do it. I'm not gonna do it. It's hard as hell. It's hard as hell. My bad. It's, oh, shit. Of course I'm not gonna do it. Oh. No, that was my finger. All right, it's hard to do it with the finger. You have to do it with a tool, right? You keep moving and keep testing. All right, we're gonna be here forever. We might do it, but it's gonna be here forever. So pretty much, right? What I'm trying to say is, this is what I'm trying to say. In order to disconnect the firing pin, to make it go off, you have to pull the trigger, right? There's no other way around. You have to pull the trigger. So that how that is an uncommanded discharge, right? There's no way that is an uncommanded discharge. An uncommanded discharge is, you know, when you're not assisting the gun, or you are another object, foreign object, you know, getting there and make the gun go off. And that actually can happen to any gun. But this gun will happen more, and I'm gonna explain why, okay? Yeah, let's use the Glock. We can use all the Glocks that have, other guns that I have in the box that they had the shoe on it, right? But let's use this as an example, okay? Let me pull this trigger measure tool again. We're going to test this thing right here. So we got the Glock 19. There's nothing done to the trigger, no spring change, just cosmetic changes, okay? And this is not gonna affect any function on the trigger, all right? So, what happened? We got 4.6. We have 4.2. And we have 4.3. So we have an average of 4.3. Glock. .3 pounds break. All right. Now we're going to test without breaking what is the pull of this gun. That's when it start breaking. You can feel it. So it's a 4.2. So Glock 4.2. All right. So you have almost a pound difference between these two guys, right? And the other thing that you have on this gun is that this gun will not pull back if an object touch the trigger unless you make two contacts. First, you have to depress that safety right there, all the way in, and then contact the second contact on the trigger, and then pull the 4.3 pounds back and make the gun go off. If you go to the wall on this gun and do all that, go to the wall about to break, and you move the slide, it will do the same thing on the SIG. You don't trust me? I'm going to post a video on the comment section about one of the YouTubers that tests a bunch of guns, and they all went off doing this test, okay? So let me pull all this, and I'm gonna explain you guys something real quick, okay? From what I know. Okay, let me pull this out. All right, we're done with the magic screw. We're gonna put it to the side, and then we have these two bad boys here, all right? We have a lot of pistols that are just like the Glock, but we're talking about these two famous ones here, right? These two famous guns here, right? One that is not that famous now, one is that keep being famous. All right, so first, right, what is the difference between these two guns? So obviously, right, if you look back in time, Glock had the same problem. They have over 1K uncommanded discharges because they didn't have this thing right here, right? That's when they add that safety shoe to avoid the gun, you know, to have caught in something at the holster and go off, okay? In addition, right, this gun have, I would say, not a heavy trigger, but heavier than other guns from factory, like this one. This one have a 3-pound trigger, 4-pound trigger, or a little bit more, right? Why this gun is, the trigger is lighter than this one, than the Glock? Okay, let me explain you why. All right, when you pull the slide on this gun, right, and you cock it, the hammer, the function of the hammer is not cocked all the way back. It's halfway. So when you pull this gun with this trigger, that's when you get that hammer going back the other half and release, right? So let's say, right, you do the same test and you pull that trigger about to break the wall, right, and move the slide and it goes off. It will go off, right? But the hammer is not gonna have enough power to hit that primer. Might not, but let's say a good 80% right? It's gonna hit it's gonna hit the primer in the back, and it's just gonna make it back a little mark. It's not gonna make it go off. All right, but the 6-hour, when you pull it back, that thing is going all the way back. That's why there's no effort, right? When you pull on the trigger and you feel the trigger very soft, right? You don't feel like too much resistance pulling back, because the trigger is already pulled. I mean, the hammer is already pulled all the way to the back. So pretty much all you're doing is, when you pull the trigger, disconnecting everything, all the safeties, till poof, trigger falls. This one, just when you start pulling to the wall, that's when you start pulling the other half. Disconnect, boom, go off. All right, so that's the two difference. That's why this gun is more safe than this gun right here. I'm not saying that this is a bad gun, right? Just like the 1911, they're snappy, they don't have any travel, and trigger lightweight too, okay? You drop a 1911, there's a big chance that it's gonna go off there, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, right, that this gun right here is more like an enhanced gun, right? This shouldn't be a law enforcement gun, in my opinion, right? This is my opinion. I'm not saying, not telling, right? I'm not an expert, but it's my personal opinion that this gun right here, it shouldn't be in the hands of the law enforcement or the military. I understand the military have the safety and additional safety, you know, and that's why there's no many uncommanded discharges, or maybe, I don't know, I haven't dig too much on it, right? I'm doing my tests. I'm not looking all over the internet. But they should have the safety in the trigger, you know, an additional safety, you know. And another thing is, right, as a law enforcement or even in the military, you don't want, you know, an enhanced trigger, like close to competition trigger, because you get nervous, you know what I mean? You pull your finger in that firearm, you're not measuring your adrenaline that you're going through, right? And you say, stop, don't move. Stop, don't move. A little push, boom. How that is gonna look in court, you know what I mean? But, you know, this one, you feel way more resistant, and you feel that trigger that, you know, it's kind of like resistant at the end before it breaks, you know. So pretty much, you know for a fact that you are committing to fire this gun. Okay, both of them, but this one is heavier on the trigger. All right. In addition, like I say, the safety on the trigger is a big safety feature for law enforcement and military. Okay, look, if you pull, all right, the trigger goes bang. You pull this one, it's not going anywhere unless you put the whole finger in there and commit to fire. Okay, so that's my 2 cents. I'm saying it again, you know, this is nothing. The 0.72 millimeters. Let me show you what is a 0.72 millimeters. Oh, man, I lost the cap on this thing. All right, so 0. So that's 0.74, right? 75. I'm gonna leave it right there because I'm never gonna get close to it. So that's a 0.72 millimeters right there. It's like not even that. Not even that. It's gonna. This paper folds in 4. It's gonna fall. See, maybe half. Yeah, in half. And that's 0.77. So that's how much, you know, that's when your shit start, you know, disconnecting. So that's my test. You know, I'm a guy that have my feet in the ground. I'm not gonna believe something because somebody said it. You know, I had to actually see it and try it myself. And this is a test, okay? Unless you press that trigger, that shit is not gonna move and go off. Okay, now if you tell me that you press this and move it and rock it forward, you know, and boom, go off without any assistance, then shit, I don't know, probably gonna melt this gun. All right, but in the meantime, we gotta still look. We gotta keep looking for the reason. Okay, I know you guys are doing the best, but that's not gonna work. All right. Hopefully, you know, somebody can call it out, you know, so we can move forward with this thing. And I'm curious, you know, I'm very curious, you know, when it comes to this, fixing guns or even cleaning guns, that's my therapy. What I'm doing right now is a therapy for me. Going in this room, I start doing all these things that I'm doing right now. It's a freaking therapy for me, okay? I'm not trying to bust anybody's balls, but yeah, no, I'm doing it anyways, but whatever. Coming down, I'm not a SIG fanboy, you know. I had 3 SIGs, 2 P320s, one old one, and this one, and P229, DAC, right? That DAC is very safe. See you guys in the next video. Please comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel. Please stay safe out there. You know, if you're not sure, you don't feel safety with a gun, you know, sell it, trade it, put it in a safe, and use another one. Okay? Even me doing the test, this is my personal opinion, even me doing this test, I'm just busting a myth here, okay? So I'm proving that that's not gonna do anything, but that doesn't mean that there's another reason why these guns are going off. Okay, like I said, I'm not an expert. I just trying it myself, and I think that's not it. All right, see you guys in the next video. Please subscribe and comment down below. You know, keep your comments respectful, because if you disrespect me, I'm gonna respect you back. Okay, I don't give a shit. See you guys in the next video.